Good morning, gentlemen, and we are learning today the Parsha of the week. Welcome, everybody. Hope you had a beautiful Shabbos. I do know that, I believe that the morning after the Super Bowl is the biggest sick day in America. Did you know about that?
No.
So thank you for showing up. Okay. Parsha of the week this week is Mishpatim, which has a tremendous amount of laws. I'm going to zone in. The lawyers.
Parsha.
The lawyer and you, right? Page 451 is the Parsha of the week. I'm going to direct your attention today to focus on the money. Show me the money, right? There's a lot of different laws here, and I'm not even going to have time to really go do the fly through today because I just want to make sure that we can focus on the one part that I would like to focus on two parts, actually, if we can get to them. So there's a very interesting, there's so much here. There's bestiality, seduction, sorcery, idolatry, exploitation. I mean, this parsha is just jam-packed with content. Where is the law? The law of lending money. The law of lending money. Hang on, I'm getting close.
How many laws are in this portion?
I don't have it right now. There's a lot of them. Yeah. Let's see where it is.
Fine. Yeah. Fine him. Atonement fine.
Page 465.
465.
If a person borrows something,
Okay, so
borrowing
459. 458.
here it is. 467. That's what I'm looking for. There's a lot of details as well. Tractates of Talmud. Actually, in tomorrow's JLI class, tomorrow's afternoon's JLI class, we're going to be discussing the Talmud and explaining. So we're going to actually be doing a summary of the entire 63 tractates of the Talmud. That's what's coming up tomorrow in our class. It's going to be really it's less. Yeah, it's going to be. 63 tractates. Seriously, to jam that into 1 hour, hour and a half is too much. But it's printed up for you, so you can just ponder it tomorrow, 4 o'clock. Yeah.
Okay.
So the parsha tells us as follows: 467. The verse I'm on is verse 24. I'm going to read it in the Hebrew because the whole commentary has just too much. 466. Im kesef talve esami. Second line. If you will lend money to my people, eteani mach, to the poor one amongst you, lo tihiyolo kenoshe, you shall not be to him as a creditor, velo tesimun olav neshech, and you shall not charge him interest. It's a mitzvah not to charge interest to a fellow Jew, right? But it is a mitzvah to charge interest to a Gentile.
Yes.
You're not allowed to make money on the disadvantage of your brother. But you're allowed to make money on the Gentile. There's nothing wrong with that. It's not like it's evil to charge interest. It's okay. You just can't do that to your brother. It's just interesting. I'm not getting into that law today. What's interesting?
Unless, of course.
Yeah. There's a way around.
it.
Because people weren't lending. So they figured out a way to do a heteriska. Now, it's interesting. It says if. It says if. Rashi points out that there are 4 times in the Torah where the word if means when. Or that.
Im. Yeah.
Im means, yeah. Now, this is very important because if you read only written Torah, it doesn't make sense. It's like, if you want to lend money, there's how you do it. But that's not the meaning of this verse. The oral Torah explains this is not optional. You must lend money to your fellow Jew. Exactly. And that's the translation. Exactly.
Yeah.
You see the translation over there says when. It's very important. That's an oral Torah tradition, explanation, oral, that explains to us that how do you do this is the way that you lend money is an obligation, right? Now, we're going to draw insights and depth into the idea of why it is an obligation to lend money to your fellow Jew. Lending money is an interesting proposition because you never want to lend money to someone whose friendship you can't afford to lose.
That's what Shakespeare said.
Is that what he said?
Neither borrower nor lender be, for loan both loses, both friend and foe.
Neither borrower nor lender be for
Loan basically loses, but
friendship.
friendship.
Wow. He was onto something there in his drunken stupor. Okay, good. So, the Rebbe called Shakespeare, the Rebbe called Shakespeare a shikara guy, a drunken gentle.
Oh,
Interesting. No, whatever. I mean, listen.
We won't debate Shakespeare.
Listen, he was certainly an anti-Semite, that we know, but it was systemic in those days.
This is the play he's quoting from.
Yeah.
I don't think that's an anti-Semitic play.
You ever read the Merchant of Venice?
Merchant of Venice?
I'm sure.
And how about the Witches of Hamlet?
I don't think so.
The Witches of Hamlet.
Look, he's alluding to anti-Semitism in his times. Whether that makes him an anti-Semite or not is an aesthetic.
That's what I said. It's
question.
systematic.
Moral
Systematic.
aesthetic question.
All right, you know what? Fair
Sorry,
enough.
not
Let's
an
not throw him
anti-Semite.
under the bus, Stephen.
Okay.
You know what?
Right.
Fair enough. Okay.
Everybody's an anti-Semite.
And actually, you know what?
That's why we
I
have to lend the money at interest.
I would like to actually make a public apology to Shakespeare.
I'll accept on his behalf.
And
one of his
I'd like to also point out that you're actually onto something because
Actually,
the
surprise,
Rebbe's,
Rabbi.
surprise, believe it or not, the Rebbe's approach to anti-Semitism is that you should never point fingers and shame them. I know that you recently came across a charity that does that, but I want to point out to you that the Rebbe says you shouldn't ever put them in a box because they don't mean to be anti-Semites. Sometimes they're just expressing, just stuff that's going on out there. But if you're gonna blame and shame them, then you're gonna put them in a corner, right? But if you allow them the opportunity to,
reason their way out of it.
yep, then they'll most often come out of it, right?
I never heard that.
Good
I
gesagt.
never heard that training from the.
Yeah, I actually gave a course about this called Outsmarting Anti-Semitism, and it was quite amazing when it was an analysis of how the French president Pompidou came to America at the time when they refused to sell arms to Israel and when they desperately needed them.
He used to sell the jets, right?
Yep, and there was this incredible surge of
French
especially among the Jewish community, and there was very much opposed to it. Long story. Anyways, back to this. So let's understand, why is it so important to lend money to your fellow Jew? Why is it not even optional? The reason is, and this is how the Rebbe explains it, is that everything that Hashem tells us to do, He does Himself. Magi the dvar of the Yaakov, v'chukav v'mishpatim of the Israel. It's a pasuk in Tehillim and in Psalms. He commands His words to Jacob, His laws and His statements to Israel. In other words, not only that He commanded them, but His observances is what He tells us to do. What He does, that's what He tells us to do. So when Hashem tells us to do a mitzvah, it means He does the same mitzvah. Tells us to keep Shabbos, He's resting in Shabbos. He tells us not to charge interest to a fellow Jew, He doesn't charge interest to a fellow Jew. He tells us to lend money to a fellow Jew. That's what He's doing as well. What does that mean? How is Hashem lending us? What is He lending us? Any ideas? So what's a loan?
It's an obligation to lend money to a Jew, even if he isn't poor.
Oh, absolutely. Especially if he's not poor. Especially if he's not
poor.
poor. Who needs money? Think about this. A fellow Jew who's rich, who just liquidated his assets to, leverage some sort of a business proposition. This is the guy who needs it more than anybody because his dignity is at risk. You see what I'm saying?
Mhm.
This guy just mortgaged his house, right? And he's house poor now. He doesn't have what to eat. But if he can't beg because the beggar, he can go beg. Everybody knows that he's poor. But this guy is still driving his Mercedes.
He's got a reputation.
Exactly. That's why the Torah says that you have to replenish his loss, whatever he is lacking. And even if he's accustomed to having a servant run ahead of him, right? So the guy that's asking you for a loan, he's driving a Bentley. I drive a jalopy. A jalopy. He's driving a Bentley. So he needs to pay for his. So it's like, I don't drive a Bentley. No, that's what you're accustomed to. That's the loss that I have to replenish. That's biblical. Okay, now what? Absolutely, everything is biblical. Warren, by the way, everything. I want to tell you, Warren, every single thing in the Torah is biblical. It's very important. That's what this course that I'm teaching, Book Smart, is about. How every single thing is rooted in the Torah. It's like layers of an onion, and if you cannot find the connection between the 6 genres of Torah back to the written Torah, you've lost the plot. It's like cave diving. You go cave diving, you gotta have that rope that keeps on connecting you. Huh?
It's a British say you've lost the plot. It's a British expression. Go
Yep.
ahead. You have 20
Good.
minutes.
Fantastic. Exactly. Thank you. Good. So what is a loan? We got to understand. We've got to understand. What are you, the Weather Bureau?
No, he won't.
So-
Worried about the guy.
Focus, guys. Focus.
In order to be able to understand what it means that Hashem loans us. What is a loan? A loan is when a person gives somebody else something that he doesn't owe him. That's a loan. The borrower doesn't owe the lender anything. Yet the lender gives him something. That's a loan. Right? It's not a gift. It's something you have to give back. So too, Hashem gives us stuff. What does Hashem give us that we don't deserve? What do you think?
Ruach. No, nefesh.
Beautiful. Kayach. What's kayach?
Strength.
You wake up in the morning. Think about this. You went to sleep farmatert. You know what that means, farmatert, in Yiddish?
Blunger.
No. Farblunger means lost. Farmatert means stokrolando, means exhausted.
Knocked out.
Yeah. Sahakt. Right? Yeah. That. So you go to sleep. You're exhausted. Think about it. Think about this, right? Imagine, you go to, when you lease a car. You lease a car with a beautiful new car smell and so fresh. What happens when you give the car back after 2 years? What happens? Same fresh new car smell? No. It's battered. It's beaten up, right? A little bit, right? It's all beaten up. That's what happens when you return the loan. By Hashem, it's the other way around. How do you give it to him? You give Hashem your soul exhausted. How does he give it back to you? Refreshed. That's amazing, right? Think about that. He's giving you a loan of the kaiches, the strength that you need. Now, we say in the morning, we put our hands together. We say, I thank you. We do this. Put our hands together. We say, I thank you. Jews used to pray like this until the Christians stole it from us. So now we only do it when they're not looking.
We also say,
Oh, yes, it's another morning blessings. But listen to this. We say, I acknowledge, I thank you, Hashem. I thank you, O living and eternal King, that you have restored my soul within me. Great is mercifully. And then we say, Rabbi, great is your faithfulness. Great is your faithfulness. One way to understand that is to mean thanks for being reliable. That's one way to understand it. But the way I like to teach it and to internalize it is thank you for having faith in me. Thank you for giving me undeserved credit. Thanks for trusting me or entrusting me with this loan of life, a lease of life for another day. I'm so excited to know why it is that you trusted me today. What's going to be today? What am I going to achieve, overcome, and fulfill today for which you found me worthy?
Let me ask you.
Yeah.
You go to the bank and you get a 10-year loan. And then in year 2, the bank comes to you and says, you know what? I want my money back now. What would you say?
Sorry, so it's not the agreed upon terms.
Okay. So how about somebody?
Where's your lease?
So
Show me your lease.
what?
Where does it say how many years you have?
How many?
Where does it say?
You just said every day it's you give.
Hashem gives you one day at a time. In fact, he gives you doctrine of perpetual creation. He gives you one instant
So
at a
it's
time. It's a
loan
matrix,
so it's a loan
not a
on-
trajectory.
So it's not a term loan. It's a loan on demand.
Absolutely.
And anytime.
Yes.
the Lord can demand.
You pull the plug.
It's very stark.
Rob, it's
Yeah.
pretty tough for you to change your
Yeah,
lifestyle.
This-
negotiate a term loan.
Right. Okay. Listen, if you want to negotiate a lease, you can negotiate a term loan. Then, I'm sure there's this mechanism for this. I'm sure there's a way. Okay. So for right now, so here's how it goes.
Just so,
Yeah.
in context. So the rich man gets himself in a position where he's all mortgaged up or whatever, and he needs money.
Yeah.
And he goes to someone who's doesn't have all that much money and says, I need, but he actually has to, which is very difficult.
Collateralize the loan.
No. For the rich
Oh, that
man,
itself
for the
is
rich
humility. Yeah.
yes, he has
100%.
to humble himself.
Yeah, but he's not doing it
and
in
say,
public.
I got it. So he goes to someone and says, I'm in a tough spot. He has to humble himself.
Yeah.
This is not voluntarily, and then that person should not turn him down simply because he believes he's rich.
Right. Exactly. 100%. Now,
Now,
bear in mind.
Himself in the own problem. Now he's gonna get somebody else in trouble.
You have to
Now-
balance.
now-
You're leveraging himself to the hilt. Now he's in trouble. Now he's going to somebody else.
Rob, I'll tell you, be careful.
Yeah.
Because if you're going to be
Judging him.
judging him,
Hashem's gonna judge.
Hashem's like, oh, yeah,
It's
maybe.
burger. It's
Let me see
burger
what you did yesterday. Let me see how you leveraged yourself yesterday.
Wait.
Right. Maybe you don't need another loan.
Wait,
Chas v'shalom.
wait. So let's finish. So are you entitled to ask for collateral? If you say, fine, I'll
think so.
give you
I
your
think so.
$100,000, yes, you can
I
get
think so.
collateral.
Yeah.
Collateralized,
So it's a
yeah.
secured loan.
Secure loan.
Yeah.
UCC, Section 9.
Without interest.
But that's not the whole point of this sentence. The whole
It's a
point of this
principle
sentence
only.
is you don't treat Jews that way. You make believe like he doesn't even owe you anything.
Right.
That's the point of the sentence.
Yeah, even if he doesn't know you anything. By the way, this wealthy man. You saw Elon Musk yesterday at the Super Bowl. I
Yeah, I
glimpsed,
saw him.
glimpsed him for a second. When I turned it on, I'm like, oh, that's him. So Elon Musk goes to the bank. He goes to Elon Musk calls Palm Beach Bank. New York Manhattan Chase Bank over there. He asked them for a loan for $25,000. So they're like, okay, but we're gonna need collateral. So he says, here's my Bentley. Yes, here's my Bentley, right? So he puts up his Bentley for collateral, and they say, okay. So 2 weeks later, he's pays back the loan with interest, $25,000 plus $25.18, right? So the bank teller says, I'm so curious, like what? He's the richest man in the world, like what? Why would you need to borrow $25,000? It says, where else can I get a parking spot in Manhattan for $25? Right. Okay. So
I love that.
So here goes.
Great.
So here Hashem goes, and Hashem says like this. Hashem says, I'm going to give you koiches. I'm going to give you koyach. I'm going to give you strength. You don't deserve it. Right? How are you going to pay me back? You're going to pay me back by using it for the commandments that I've ordered you to fulfill. Eila Mishpatim. These are the commandments. The name of the parsha, which is chock-a-block full with all of the commandments of the portion, right? Now, it continues to say, you gave him a loan. Don't be like a creditor. Don't bother him.
Right.
Don't come stand in front of him every day and say, hello,
pester him
good
every day.
morning. Right? You're not supposed to do that, right? You're not because you're not supposed to do that, right? So too, Hashem is not supposed to do this. Now, this is very interesting what the Rabbi says right now. The Rabbi says that don't be to him like a creditor. Don't bother him. Don't distress him. If he has the money, he'll pay you back. If he doesn't have the money, then don't rub it in his face, right? Obviously, he has to pay you back, but don't rub it in his face. So too, what does it mean that Hashem shouldn't bother the Jews? How would Hashem bother us? Tsaris. Tsaris. When you have tsaris, that means Hashem is, hello, a health crisis, a financial crisis.
It's the wake-up call.
The wake-up call. So the Rebbe is saying, this is very interesting, and the Rebbe is interpreting the verse to read, Laisi alayka naisha. Don't be a creditor. Don't behave like a creditor. I think my understanding is that the Rebbe is protesting. And he's saying, Hashem, look what it says. You fulfill the commandments. You have no right to bother us. We'll pay you back as soon as we can. Is that interesting, right?
Yeah, very interesting.
Rather, Hashem should collect his loan in a way of love, through chesed v'rachamim, through kindness and through compassion, but toiv anir v'anigla, through goodness that is revealed, obvious, and apparent.
Look at that.
All right?
30 seconds to
I
spare,
just think,
Rabbi.
Folks, I got to call it a day. I got to sign off. So good to see everybody and have a chance to say hello to everybody, but good morning.
I've always had